The starship horizon hummed with a gentle vibration that most humans would find annoying, but Jay Woodpark found comforting. She had been in space for so long that the constant low-level buzz felt like home. Her fingers moved quickly across the holographic display, sorting through countless archaeological artifacts collected from the remote regions of the Orion Arm. Around her, the research team moved with a mix of boredom and routine. Alien researchers from 3 different species occupied various workstations. To her left, a Keylithy researcher with 4 arms and translucent skin carefully examined mineral samples. Behind her, a pair of Vordran researchers, looking like walking crystals with sensory tendrils, argued in low, clicking sounds about some minute detail of their research. Jaguar was different. Where others saw just another day of mundane research, she saw possibility. Her dark eyes scanned the artifacts with an intensity that made her colleagues slightly uncomfortable. She knew she was considered an outsider, a human among advanced alien species, often viewed as the newest and least experienced race in the galactic research community. The data crystal caught her attention almost by accident. It was small, no larger than her palm, and had been sitting in the secondary collection bin for weeks. Most researchers had ignored it, considering it just another piece of space junk, but something about its unusual geometric pattern made Jawa pause. She picked up the crystal, turning it slowly in her hand. Unlike the smooth, perfectly symmetrical artifacts typically found in archaeological collections, this one had an irregular surface. Tiny indentations ran across its surface in a pattern that seemed almost deliberate, not random, but not following any standard geometric design she recognized. "Hey, Seok-jin," she called to her research partner, a tall alien with blue-tinted skin and large, intelligent eyes. "Can you take a look at this?" Seok-jin approached, his movement fluid and graceful. He was one of the few alien researchers who didn't immediately dismiss human insights, where other senior researchers saw Jaehwa as a curiosity. Seok-jin saw potential. "Interesting," he muttered, using a specialized scanner to examine the crystal. The device flickered and hummed, its advanced sensors probing the artifact's structure. "This doesn't match any known archaeological classification in our database." Jaehwa's excitement grew. In the vast research vessel, surrounded by millions of artifacts from thousands of worlds, finding something truly unique was rare. Most discoveries were minor. A slightly different pottery design, a minor technological variant, another footnote in the massive galactic historical record. But this crystal felt different. She connected it to her personal research terminal. Most of the team used complex alien interfaces that required multiple limbs or specialized neural connections. Jaehwa used a simple human-designed interface. Direct, straightforward, and surprisingly effective. The crystal resisted initial scanning attempts. Where most artifacts would immediately display their data, this one seemed to push back. The display flickered, showing fragments of information that disappeared almost as quickly as they appeared. "It's like the crystal is playing a game," Jaehwa murmured. "Hiding something." Seok-jin raised what passed for eyebrows on his species. "Artifacts don't play games, Jaehwa. They're objects, static, unchanging." But Jaehwa wasn't listening. Her mind was already racing, seeing connections that others missed. The crystal's resistance wasn't a technical malfunction. It was a challenge, a puzzle waiting to be solved. Outside the research vessel's massive windows, distant stars glimmered. Billions of years of cosmic history stretched out before them. Countless civilizations had risen and fallen. Entire species had explored, conquered, and disappeared. And here, in this moment, a human researcher was about to unravel a mystery that had remained hidden for millennia. Jaehwa smiled. The hunt was about to begin. The main conference hall of the horizon was a marvel of alien engineering. Curved walls shifted colors like living organisms, and floating translation devices hummed softly, converting multiple alien languages into understandable speech. Jaehwa stood at the center, feeling small but determined. Around her sat the most prestigious researchers from 9 different alien civilizations. The Keylethie representatives looked like translucent jellyfish suspended in gravity fields. The Vordran researchers appeared as living crystal structures, their edges catching and reflecting light in complex patterns. Others looked even more bizarre, beings so different from humans that their very form challenged understanding. Dr. Krell, the senior Vordran researcher, spoke first. His crystal-like body pulsed with dismissive colors. "Another human speculation," he said, his translation device rendering his clicking language into sharp, condescending words. "We have studied this artifact for 3,000 generations. What could you possibly see that we have missed?" Seok Jin, standing beside Jaehua, shifted uncomfortably. As her research partner, he knew the stakes. Humans were still considered newcomers in the galactic research community. One wrong move could set back human scientific credibility for decades. Jaehua took a deep breath. She had prepared for this moment. On the massive holographic display behind her, she projected the images of the data crystal. Unusual geometric patterns danced across the screen. Intricate, complex, yet somehow different from anything the alien researchers had seen before. "The crystal isn't just an object," she explained carefully. "It's a puzzle. And puzzles are solved by thinking differently." A ripple of amused sounds passed through the alien researchers. Thinking differently. They had spent millennia analyzing this artifact. Countless research teams, advanced scanning technologies, and the most brilliant minds of multiple civilizations had failed to crack its secrets. And here was a human, barely 30 standard galactic years old, claiming she had a unique approach. Dr. Krell's crystal body shifted to a deep shade of angry red. "Explain," he demanded. Jaehua moved to the holographic display. Her fingers danced across the projection, pulling apart the crystal's geometric patterns. Where previous researchers had seen a solid object, she showed layers, hidden connections, potential pathways of information that seemed to twist and turn like a living maze. "Most research approaches this as a static object," she said. "But what if it's dynamic? What if the information changes based on how you look at it?" Seok Jin watched carefully. He knew human researchers were different. While most alien scientific approaches were linear and methodical, humans approached problems with creativity. They saw connections where others saw only barriers. The conference hall grew quiet. Too quiet. Dr. Krell's translation device crackled. "Speculation," he repeated. "We have run every possible scan, every possible analysis. There is nothing more to discover." But Jaehua wasn't finished. She pulled up a series of comparative analyses, human problem-solving algorithms, neural network studies, quantum information theories that most alien researchers considered primitive. "I don't think we're looking at a data storage device," she said. "I think we're looking at a test, a challenge left behind by an ancient civilization." Murmurs spread through the hall. Some sounded amused. Others sounded intrigued. A few sounded angry. Dr. Krell's crystal body pulsed rapidly. "You will submit a full research proposal," he said finally, "and it will be reviewed extensively." Translation: they would try to find every possible way to discredit her work. Seok Jin leaned close to Jaehua. "That went better than I expected," he whispered. Jaehua just smiled. The real work was about to begin. Outside the conference hall, distant stars continued their silent dance. Millions of years of cosmic history watched and waited. 2 weeks after the conference, Jaehua's research lab looked like a controlled disaster. Holographic displays covered every wall. Scattered coffee mugs, a habit she'd brought from Earth, sat next to advanced alien scanning equipment. Seok Jin watched her with a mixture of worry and fascination. "You haven't slept in 3 days," he observed. Jaehua didn't look up. Her fingers moved rapidly across multiple holographic interfaces. Images of the crystal rotated, twisted, and transformed in ways that would make most researchers dizzy. "Sleep is for people who aren't solving the biggest mystery in galactic history," she muttered. The data crystal sat in the center of her workspace. It looked innocent, simple, but Jaehua knew better. Every time she thought she understood it, the crystal seemed to shift, change, resist her understanding. Her breakthrough came from an unexpected place. On her desk sat an old book, a gift from her grandfather. It was about human problem-solving techniques, specifically how the human brain creates connections. Most alien researchers would have ignored such a primitive resource. HFY saw it differently. She remembered something her grandfather used to say. The most important questions aren't answered by looking harder. They're answered by looking differently. Suddenly, she stopped. The crystal's geometric patterns. They weren't random. They weren't even just a code. They were more like a living network, similar to how human neural networks processed information. Seok Jin, she called, her voice sharp with excitement. Look at this. The alien researcher approached. Where other researchers would have seen complicated geometric patterns, HFY showed him something else. A network. A system that changed based on how you looked at it. It's alive, she said. Not literally, but information-wise. It adapts. It responds. Seok Jin's translation device struggled to capture the excitement in her voice. Explain, he said. HFY pulled up multiple displays. She showed how the crystal's patterns shifted when viewed from different angles, how information seemed to flow and change. It wasn't a static storage device. It was more like a living puzzle. Most alien research approaches this as a completed object, she explained. But what if it's a process? What if solving it is part of the challenge? She demonstrated using human neural network algorithms, approaches that were considered almost laughable by most advanced alien research teams. But here, they worked differently. They saw connections, patterns, possibilities. The crystal began to reveal tiny fragments of information, not complete data, just hints, whispers of something larger. A map, fragments of technology, suggestions of a civilization so advanced that it made current galactic technology look like children's toys. Seok Jin's eyes widened. How are you doing this? HFY smiled. By not doing what everyone else has done. Outside the research lab, the horizon continued its journey through space. Millions of stars watched silently, waiting. The data crystal pulsed softly, almost like it was breathing, waiting to reveal more of its secrets. HFY knew she was close to something big, something that would change everything humans understood about the universe. And she was just getting started. The research hall buzzed with tension. Dr. Krell's crystal body flickered with angry shades of red and purple. Around him, senior researchers from multiple alien civilizations leaned forward, their various sensory organs focused on HFY. Your methods are unorthodox, Dr. Krell said, his translation device making his words sound like sharp ice. Unscientific, impossible. HFY stood her ground. Behind her, holographic displays showed the progress she had made with the data crystal. Fragments of information danced between complex geometric patterns. Each image told a story of discovery that challenged everything these researchers thought they knew. Seok Jin watched from the side. As her research partner, he knew the stakes. Humans were still viewed as newcomers in the galactic research community. One wrong move could set back human scientific credibility for decades. Unorthodox doesn't mean wrong, HFY responded carefully. Her hands moved across the holographic controls, revealing another layer of the crystal's mysterious information network. We're seeing something no one has seen before. Dr. Lina, a Keylethie researcher with 4 arms and skin that shifted like liquid mercury, spoke next. 3,000 research teams have studied this artifact. Thousands of years of combined research. And you suggest you found something we missed. The challenge hung in the air. HFY knew what they were doing. They weren't just questioning her research. They were trying to break her spirit. But humans were good at something aliens often underestimated: persistence. I'm not saying I'm smarter, she explained. I'm saying I'm looking differently. Her display showed how human neural network approaches revealed hidden patterns in the crystal. Where alien researchers saw a solid object, she showed a living, changing network of information. Each scan revealed something new, something unexpected. Dr. Krell's investigation began immediately. Not of the crystal, of HFY. Background checks started. Every detail of her academic history was examined. Where did she study? What were her previous research achievements? The message was clear. They would find any reason to discredit her work. Seok-jin approached her during a break. "They're looking for weaknesses," he warned. HFY just smiled. "Let them look." The next week brought challenges. Official complaints were filed. Her research methods were questioned. Some alien researchers demanded she be removed from the project. But each challenge brought more attention to her work. More researchers began to look closer, to ask questions, to wonder if the human might be onto something important. Dr. Krell's final report was scathing, speculative, unreliable, based on unproven human research methods. Yet beneath the harsh words, something else existed, a hint of fear, of possibility. The data crystal continued to reveal its secrets, slowly, carefully, like a living thing playing an elaborate game. HFY worked day and night. She didn't just defend her research. She expanded it. Each new discovery was another piece of the puzzle, another challenge to the established understanding of galactic history. Seok-jin watched her dedication. Most alien researchers would have given up, would have accepted the criticism, retreated. But not HFY. Not this human. "They underestimate us," she said one night, surrounded by holographic displays and half-empty coffee mugs. "Humans don't just accept the first answer. We keep asking questions." Outside the research vessel, stars continued their silent dance. Millions of years of cosmic history watched and waited. The real battle was just beginning. The research lab hummed with quiet energy. Holographic displays flickered and danced, showing fragments of information that no one had ever seen before. HFY sat at the center, her eyes red from lack of sleep, but her mind sharper than ever. 17%, she whispered. Seok-jin looked up. "What?" "We've decrypted 17% of the crystal's data," HFY explained. Her fingers moved across the holographic interface, pulling apart complex geometric patterns that seemed to breathe and shift with each touch. The partial decryption was nothing like anyone expected. The first fragments told a story of a civilization so advanced that it made current galactic technology look like primitive tools. Glimpses of star-spanning networks, technologies that could reshape entire planets, communication systems that worked across impossible distances. But there was something else, something darker. Fragments of a conflict, an ancient war that had been completely misunderstood by previous researchers. The crystal didn't just hold information, it held a warning. Seok-jin approached the display. His alien eyes, designed to see spectrums humans couldn't imagine, studied the information carefully. "This changes everything," he said quietly. HFY nodded. The research teams that had studied this crystal for thousands of years had missed the point entirely. They had been looking at a lock when they should have been looking at a key. The data showed hints of a civilization that could move between stars like humans moved between rooms. Technology so advanced it bordered on magic, but also hints of a threat, something that had destroyed this civilization, something that might still exist. "We need to be careful," Seok-jin warned. "This information could cause panic." But HFY was already thinking ahead. Each fragment was a puzzle piece. Each decoded section revealed more questions than answers. The crystal was alive in a way no one had understood before. Dr. Krell would be furious. The senior researchers who had dismissed her would be shocked. This wasn't just another research project. This was a complete rewriting of galactic history. The first major revelation came unexpectedly. A map. But not a map of stars or planets. A map of something else. A network of connections that suggested technologies beyond current understanding. "Look," HFY said, pointing to a complex geometric pattern. "This isn't just information. It's a blueprint." Seok-jin leaned closer. The pattern showed connections between points that shouldn't exist. Faster than light travel wasn't just possible. It was a simple thing to this ancient civilization, like walking from one room to another. The research vessel's communication system suddenly came alive. Incoming messages, alerts, the preliminary findings had already leaked. 17%, Jaehua repeated. And we've already changed everything. Outside the research vessel's massive windows, stars continued their silent watch. Millions of years of cosmic history held its breath. The crystal pulsed softly, as if it was waiting, watching, challenging. Jaehua smiled. They were just getting started. Seok-Jin looked at her. What happens next? He asked. We keep solving the puzzle, Jaehua responded. One piece at a time. The universe, it seemed, had been waiting for a human to look at the problem differently. The transmission halls of the Galactic Council burned with tension. Holographic displays showed Jaehua's research from multiple angles. Representatives from 9 different alien civilizations watched, their various body languages showing a mix of fear, anger, and confusion. 17%, repeated the Keelathy ambassador, her 4 arms moving in complex gestures of agitation. 17% that changes everything we know about galactic history. Seok-Jin stood beside Jaehua, watching carefully. He knew how dangerous this moment was. The research wasn't just a scientific discovery. It was a political earthquake. The fragments decoded from the crystal suggested something terrifying. An ancient civilization had existed, a civilization so advanced that it made current galactic powers look like children playing with toys. Worse, this civilization had faced a threat so massive that it had nearly destroyed everything. And no one had known about it until now. We cannot allow this information to spread, declared the Vordran representative. His crystal body pulsed with shades of deep purple, a color that meant serious concern among his species. Jaehua understood what was happening. The alien civilizations weren't just worried about the scientific implications. They were afraid of losing control of the narrative, of having their carefully constructed historical understanding destroyed. Information wants to be free, she said quietly. Seok-Jin translated her words into multiple languages. Each translation carried a slightly different meaning, a subtle reminder of how complex communication could be. The diplomatic tension grew. Some representatives wanted the research suppressed. Others wanted to study it carefully. A few saw an opportunity. If this civilization had technologies beyond our understanding, said the Lunar Confederation representative, we need to know everything. Political lines began to shift. Alliances that had existed for thousands of years suddenly looked fragile. The simple discovery of a data crystal by a human researcher was reshaping galactic politics. Jaehua watched carefully. She knew humans were still considered newcomers, outsiders, but this discovery changed everything. The crystal had revealed more than just technological secrets. It showed hints of a conflict, a massive threat that had destroyed an entire civilization, something that might still exist. We need more information, demanded the Keelathy ambassador. But information was a tricky thing. The more they decoded, the more questions appeared. Each fragment was like a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit with the others. Seok-Jin leaned close to Jaehua. Be careful, he whispered. They will try to control you now. She knew he was right. Researchers who made big discoveries often disappeared, not physically, but professionally. Their work would be buried, their voices silenced. But Jaehua was human, and humans were good at being loud. The transmission hall continued to buzz with conversation. Holographic displays showed the decoded fragments over and over. Each viewing revealed something new, something unexpected. Outside, space continued its silent dance. Millions of years of cosmic history watched and waited. The real battle was just beginning. Jaehua smiled. She wasn't afraid. She was excited. One thing was certain. Nothing would be the same after today. The research lab looked like a battlefield of information. Empty coffee cups, holographic displays that never shut down. Jaehua had been awake for 72 consecutive hours, her determination burning brighter than the stars outside. Seok Jin brought her another cup of coffee. His alien metabolism didn't understand human caffeine addiction, but he knew how important it was to her. "You need to rest," he said. Jae-woo didn't even look up. Her fingers moved across multiple holographic interfaces. The data crystal sat in the center of her workspace, pulsing with a soft, almost living light. "Rest is for people who aren't about to change everything," she muttered. The final encryption layers were complex, impossibly complex. Most researchers would have given up weeks ago. But Jae-woo saw each layer as a challenge, a puzzle waiting to be solved. Her breakthrough came from an unexpected combination of human problem-solving techniques and the advanced scanning technologies on the research vessel. Where alien researchers saw barriers, she saw pathways. Where they saw dead ends, she saw opportunities. Suddenly, everything changed. The crystal's final layers began to reveal themselves. Not slowly, not carefully, but all at once, like a dam breaking. A galactic map appeared, but it wasn't just a map of stars. It was a map of something else entirely. Transportation networks that moved between stars like humans moved between rooms. Technologies that could reshape entire planets. Communication systems that worked across impossible distances. But there was more. A warning. The ancient civilization hadn't just been advanced. They had been survivors. They had faced a threat so massive that it had nearly destroyed everything. A cyclic cosmic threat that moved in patterns too large for most species to understand. "Look," Jae-woo called to Seok Jin. The map showed more than just locations. It showed connections, pathways, potential defensive strategies against a threat that most current civilizations couldn't even comprehend. Seok Jin's alien eyes widened. "This changes everything," he whispered. The research vessel's communication systems began to light up. Incoming messages, alerts. The preliminary findings were spreading faster than anyone could control. Jae-woo had done more than just decode a crystal. She had unlocked a message left behind by an ancient civilization. A message that suggested humanity was not alone. That there were larger dangers in the universe. And more importantly, that there might be a way to prepare. The final decryption took another 6 hours. Each moment revealed something new. Something unexpected. Technologies that made current galactic powers look like children playing with simple toys. Dr. Krell would be furious. The senior researchers who had dismissed her would be shocked. But Jae-woo wasn't thinking about them. She was thinking about what came next. "We're not just researchers anymore," she told Seok Jin. "We're messengers." Outside the research vessel's massive windows, stars continued their silent dance. Millions of years of cosmic history held its breath. The crystal pulsed one last time, as if saying goodbye, as if its job was finally complete. Jae-woo smiled. They had solved the puzzle. But the real journey was just beginning. The Great Hall of the Galactic Research Consortium was unlike any conference room in human history. Gravity fields shifted. Holographic displays danced with colors no human eye could fully perceive. Alien researchers from 9 different civilizations sat in positions that would break human bones. Jae-woo stood at the center, one human, surrounded by beings who had studied the universe for thousands of years. Dr. Krell's crystal body pulsed with colors of anger and disbelief. "Explain," he demanded. She took a deep breath. Behind her, a massive holographic display showed the decoded information from the data crystal. Not just fragments, not just pieces, but a complete picture that challenged everything these researchers thought they knew. "This isn't just a data storage device," Jae-woo began. "It's a message, a warning." The holographic display came alive. Ancient star maps revealed themselves. Transportation networks that moved between galaxies like humans moved between city blocks. Communication systems that worked across impossible distances. But the most important revelation was the threat. A cyclic cosmic event, something that had destroyed the civilization that created the crystal. Something that moved in patterns too large for most species to understand. Seok Jin stood beside her, her only ally in a room full of skeptical alien researchers. 17%, Dr. Krell muttered. 17% that supposedly changes everything we know about galactic history. Jae-woo didn't back down. Where other researchers would have been intimidated, she saw an opportunity. A chance to show something fundamental about human nature. We don't just accept the first answer. We keep asking questions. The display showed more. Advanced technologies that made current galactic powers look like children playing with simple toys. Defensive strategies against a cosmic threat that most civilizations couldn't even comprehend. How? Asked the Keyleth ambassador, her forearms moving in complex gestures of confusion and anger. By looking differently, Jae-woo explained. She demonstrated how human neural network approaches had cracked the crystal's encryption. Where alien researchers saw a solid object, she showed a living, changing network of information. The room grew quiet. Some alien researchers looked angry, others looked afraid. A few looked excited. Dr. Krell's crystal body flickered between multiple colors, a sign of deep emotional conflict among his species. We have studied this artifact for 3,000 generations, he said. The translation device made his words sound like sharp ice, and a human researcher claims to have solved what we could not. Jae-woo smiled. Not claimed. Demonstrated. The holographic display continued to show the decoded information. Each moment revealed something new, something unexpected. Seok Jin leaned close. Be careful, he whispered. But Jae-woo wasn't afraid. Humans were good at something aliens often underestimated: persistence. The Great Hall became a battlefield of ideas. Political lines shifted. Scientific understanding crumbled. Everything they thought they knew about the universe was changing. Outside, space continued its silent dance. Millions of years of cosmic history watched and waited. The crystal's final message was clear. Prepare. Something is coming. And humanity had just become the messenger. Jae-woo looked around the room. She wasn't just a researcher anymore. She was a bridge between what was and what could be. The real journey was just beginning. 6 months after the discovery, everything had changed. Jae-woo stood on the observation deck of the horizon, watching distant stars. Behind her, a massive holographic display showed the complete map decoded from the crystal. Researchers from multiple alien civilizations worked together in ways they never had before. Humanity was no longer just a new species in the galactic community. They were problem solvers, innovators, the species that had cracked the puzzle no one else could solve. Seok Jin approached, his alien steps silent on the metal floor. The Galactic Council wants to speak with you again, he said. Jae-woo smiled. The first few meetings had been tense, angry, filled with doubt and challenge. Now things were different. The data crystal had revealed more than just ancient technologies. It showed a cosmic threat, a cyclical event that could destroy entire civilizations, something that moved in patterns too large for most species to understand. And humans were now at the center of preparing for this threat. Research centers across multiple planets were being restructured. The technology's hint in the crystal suggested defensive strategies that could protect entire star systems. Faster than light travel. Communication networks that worked across impossible distances. They're offering you a position, Seok Jin continued. Lead researcher for the Galactic Preparation Initiative. The irony wasn't lost on Jae-woo. The same researchers who had tried to discredit her were now asking her to lead the most important research project in galactic history. Outside the observation deck, massive research ships moved in coordinated patterns. Alien species that had been competitors for thousands of years now worked together. All because of a single data crystal. All because one human researcher looked at the problem differently. What do you think? Seok Jin asked. Jae-woo continued to watch the stars. We're just getting started, she said. The research was more than just a scientific discovery. It was a message of hope, a warning that something big was coming, and humanity was now the bridge between what was and what could be. Dr. Krell, once her biggest critic, now worked alongside her. His crystal body no longer pulsed with anger, but with a mixture of respect and excitement. The boundaries between species were changing, breaking down. The crystal was a test, HFY had explained during one of their early meetings, not just of technology, but of how we think, how we solve problems. And humans had passed that test. Research centers on Earth were overflowing with new recruits, young scientists who saw the universe differently, who understood that the most important discoveries came from asking questions no one else dared to ask. The horizon continued its journey through space, a symbol of human potential, of what could be achieved when someone refused to accept the first answer. Seok-jin watched HFY. "What happens next?" he asked. She turned, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "We prepare," she said. "We learn. We get ready for whatever is coming." The massive holographic display continued to show the decoded map, pathways between stars, communication networks, defensive technologies that seemed like magic. Humanity had changed overnight. From a young, emerging species to the key problem solvers of the galactic community. Outside, space continued its silent dance. Millions of years of cosmic history watched and waited. But this time, they were ready. HFY smiled. The real journey was just beginning.